We can certainly use AI to help us teach grammar, but there are two parts at least. We need to know the language ourselves to feel confident, and we need to know the different ways that we can approach grammar in order to get the best prompts. So let's start with our own knowledge. We need to know the rules of the target language. If it's grammar, we need to know where our students are going to struggle. So we need to be able to anticipate problems the students will have with the language. And ideally, we'd like to be able to test ourselves so that we can go into the classroom feeling really confident. I'm going to try dictating this and let's see what happens. I want you to teach me about the second conditional. I need to understand the meaning, form, pronunciation before I teach it. And I would like you to create a test for me as well so that I feel I know it. Let's see what happens. Okay, so you're not talking directly to it, but it generates the text if you feel you just want to sort of sound it out rather than type it all up. So it's given me sample sentence and it started with the form. Yeah, the past simple. If I won the lottery, I would buy a Porsche. Or if I bought a Porsche, if I won the lottery, I'd buy a Porsche. I'd buy a Porsche if I won the lottery. The meaning, it's about imagining. It's not real in this situation. Connected speech. There are weak forms. Okay. Mini practice for me. So test your understanding, fill in the gaps. It's asking me to write 3. Okay, so I'm going to say test my teacher knowledge of the second conditional. Let's see what happens, okay? So it's created a test for me. And it will provide me model answers if I want them. Okay, so the idea is it's testing my competence. Do I feel ready to teach this to my students? Okay, yes. I'm pretty good with the second conditional. So in order to get the best prompts, it helps if we know a little bit about the different approaches to teaching grammar. So deductive is the first one. You put the language on the board and identify the rules, tell the students the rules, and then ask them to try activities that show that they've understood what you've told them. Inductive is you put the language on the board and you ask the students to see if they can work out the rules. So, for example, I have known him since last year. I've known him for a year. For equals a total of time and since is a point in time. PPP is a presentation, practice, production. It's more of a lesson model, but the teacher stands at the front and gives a little situation, often with pictures, explanation, highly contextualized piece of language. Then the students practice and they produce it. So controlled practice is the second P, and theoretically a freer practice is the final P. Task-based learning for grammar, the focus is not so much on the grammar as on the task. So for example, we want students to tell us about their first day at primary school. So the task would generate by itself the simple past. And so we use tasks, specific task design, in order to practice particular points of grammar and feed in the grammar as is needed in order to do the task. Consciousness raising, noticing may be a little bit more than inductive, in that often the language is embedded in text, reading or a listening text, and the students are asked to notice how the language is used and what it achieves. So generally a higher level class for this. Communicative lexical approach, similar to task-based. We want students to perform an act of communication. For example, it may be ordering a Big Mac in a McDonald's and the language and grammar that they will need in order to achieve the task. So in this way, we're focusing on the act of communication and the language needed to do that. So 6 very different types of lessons, not definitive, but they cover the most parts. So we'll have a look at those now on chat. So create, a deductive lesson for since. Okay. So it tells us how long it is. So in this way, we're telling the students the for and is for duration and since is the starting point. We've got examples, we give them controlled practice and another practice. So we're moving down so that finally they're doing a freer practice of the language that we've presented. A classic deductive lesson plan for and since. Okay, create inductive lesson plan for comparatives. Okay, let's have a look. So inductive meaning students discover the rules for themselves. We're going to show 2 pictures, so that's for setting the context. They have the language. So in this way, they have to work out the rules. Probably need more examples than that. Underline, yeah. So this is about the form. And I would say, yeah, they will probably need more rules, but the same thing. Then a controlled practice, semi-controlled and freer. So very much an inductive lesson plan for comparatives. Okay, give me a PPP lesson for the 3rd conditional. I would have married him if he had asked me. So we know it's upper intermediate, absolutely. So PPP, so here we are, typical PPP, teacher stands at the front with a picture, they're contextualizing it, they pull out the language, lots of meaning check questions. So meaning and form are done on the board really, then we move to controlled practice. Students often have a problem with this. I mean, it's one of the sort of, if I had studied harder, there's a lot going on, I would have passed the exam. When you introduce this the first time, they're always forgetting words, mixing up the clauses, all sorts of things are happening. Okay. Remember, you can ask ChatGPT to anticipate and solve the problems that your students may have with this language. Okay. So, let's have prepare a TBL, task-based learning lesson, for causative have. I like this. Causative have is, I have my hair cut every month. So it's when, it is a passive. It's a nice little structure at a higher level. When we talk about things that are done, we have done for us. Okay, so here's our task, role play, planning a busy day using different services. Students try the task, then they're given some language analysis, then they repeat the task to make sure that it's better. Pure TBL, great, all organised for you. And okay, lesson plan for past, simple, irregular verbs in context of school life. As you can see, the prompts are getting less and less and less. It's learning. Most students need pre-intermediate, they just need practice, practice, practice with irregular verbs. They kind of know them passively, but our job is to try and get them to practice far more and to activate that knowledge. So, oh, I forgot to tell it was a communicative lesson. All right, so let me try make this a communicative type lesson. There we are. And we've got communicative. So to go back, it's useful to know our lesson types. Deductive, we give the rules. Inductive, they work the rules out. PPP, we present the language in a contextualized way. Task-based, students do a task, we give them the language to improve, they redo the task. Conscious raising, noticing, they see how the language is used, usually within text. So much more contextualized than deductive or inductive. Communicative or lexical approach, we focus on the act of communication and feed in the language as it's needed in order to complete the communication task.